The quatrain underscored his fame by a prediction that seemed to come true. It happened in the summer of 1559. The King of France hosts the weddings of both his daughter and his sister.
So there was a giant tournament to celebrate the two marriages. And at this tournament, Henry II decided that he wanted to show off his prowess as a warrior, so he challenged to single combat the Count of Montgomery, who was a famous warrior at the time. He and Montgomery fight a joust with blunted lances, but Montgomery's lance breaks. And the point of Montgomery's broken lance goes into the eye slit of Henry II's helmet and penetrates his eye. 10 days later, after unspeakable agonies, Henry dies.
Everyone, even Montgomery, whose misfortune it was to have killed the king, credited Nostradamus with having predicted it, though the wording could easily be read in many ways.
He will put out his eyes in a cage of gold, 2 fleets won, then he dies a cruel death.
This prophecy is filled with interesting circumstantial or literal evidence. You have the young lion, the old lion in the first line. They both, it is said, had lion-embossed shields. The Count Montgomery who went against the king was several years younger than the king. Young lion, old lion.
Though Henry's tournament may qualify as single combat, could the jousting arena be called a field of war?
On September 2nd, 1666, shortly after midnight, a fire broke out at a bakery on Pudding Lane in the city of London. High winds spread the flames quickly, and by the time all was said and done, 80% of the city would be consumed. In 1666, England was at war with both the French and the Dutch. When the fire destroyed the city, many assumed it was a deliberate precursor to an invasion by one of those powers, and a wave of anti-immigrant violence broke out. A Dutch bakery was attacked by a mob, a Frenchman was brutally beaten with an iron bar, and a Swedish diplomat only narrowly avoided being hanged, thanks to a quick intervention by the Duke of York. One specific rumor that was spread was that the French had started the fires using explosives. The rumor would spark a wave of anti-French violence. Several people were killed or injured, including a French woman attacked by a mob that believed she had explosives in her apron. By the time the fire was extinguished, 80% of the area within the city's medieval walls was completely destroyed.
Nostradamus, Napoleon's Rise. Nostradamus lived in 16th century France, almost 300 years before the birth of Napoleon. Yet, he made the following prediction in his 1555 book, The Prophecies. Here it is. Po, nay, Laurent, more fire than blood. Swimming in praise, the great man hurries to the confluence. He will refuse entry to the magpies. Pimpon and Durance will confine them. Let's break that down. The first 3 words of that quatrain are Po, Nay, and Laurent. Some say this is an anagram for Napoleon Roy. Roy in Old French supposedly means king. So, we have King Napoleon. The next part, more fire than blood, may be in relation to the fact that Napoleon was not of French nobility and waged war across Europe. Let's look at the history. The Mediterranean, 1798. Napoleon Bonaparte has shot right up to the top of the French army and decides Egypt should belong to France. The French invade and take over the North African nation, angering the British in the process. This gives Napoleon a major boost in popularity back in France. Paris, 1799. 10 years after the 1789 revolution, France is ready to upend itself once more. The nation is bankrupt, and the French are growing impatient. They're governed by the Directory, a body comprised of the Council of 500 and Council of Ancients. Napoleon is supposed to follow the Directory's orders, but little do they know, he has machinations of his own. Napoleon makes a pact with Emmanuel Joseph Sieyès, a Council of 500 director. Napoleon's brother and council speaker Lucien also joins the alliance, along with several others. They plan to overthrow the Directory and seize power. Sieyès thinks he'll rule. He doesn't know how wrong he is. The Directory gets warning of a planned coup d'etat from Lucien and flee to safety in the Paris suburbs. Except this is a trap, and they took the bait hook, line, and sinker. For you see, Napoleon was their guard. Over the next few days, the would-be king and his allies acquired power from the councils. And not long after, Napoleon and his troops stormed their chambers. In the days that followed, France's future became clear. Napoleon wrote the next constitution and was elected first consul in 1799. Over the next few years, he consolidated his power even further, and in 1804, he made himself Emperor of the French.
With World War II wreaking havoc throughout Europe and the Pacific. It wasn't only the latest news from the front lines making headlines, but also Nostradamus and his prophecy centering on the rise of a man named Hister.
What triggered his international fame was a reference 5 times in his prophecies about a man named Hister, with a Gothic S, which has a T cross to it. Another push, nudge, perhaps, in his work. Hister is the ancient name of the river Danube. Adolf Hitler grew up on the river Danube. Nostradamus had a pattern of using a place as a person. The river is a code. And the things that are said in the other parts of the prophecies indicate that it's a man. The man who's called the captain of Greater Germany.
Is it possible Nostradamus predicted the rise of one of the most evil men in history? According to many who have studied these quatrains, the answer is yes. And as evidence, they point to other things he foresaw.
The Twin Towers attack is a recent example of the writings of Michel Nostradamus being linked to modern events.
What amazed me was how quick something like England's Daily Mail was in associating Nostradamus with having predicted the event.
There were 2 Nostradamus verses that were commonly quoted about the Twin Towers disaster. Perhaps the main one was the 97th verse of Century 6. I have translated it as, latitude 45, the sky shall burn. To great new city shall the fire draw nigh. With vehemence the flames shall spread and churn, when with the Normans they conclusions try.
Le Measurer has decoded each section of the prophecy.
Well, New York City isn't on latitude 45, it's 41 and a bit. It's Naples. Naples is Neapolis in Greek, new city. And the Normans, what on earth the Normans are supposed to have to do with multicultural New York, I'm not too sure.
We are going to join another one of our New York affiliates, WABC, for their live coverage.
Plane overhead, and then all of a sudden I thought it sounded kind of louder. Then I looked up, and all of a sudden it smashed right dead into the center of the World Trade Center. Big flash of flame, fire coming out from all over. Then all the bricks is a huge hole right now. It almost looks like the plane probably went through. I'm not sure.
Winston, can you see? Are you on the north side there where the plane made contact?
Yes, I am.
Now, when you say a huge hole, one of our earlier witnesses, Libby Clark, said not much of the plane came down off the building. Much of it went
totally
right
into the building.
It's in the building, from what you can see.
Right.
Now, can you see if there's a lot of debris downstairs, Winston?
No, because it looked like it inverted. With the impact, everything went inside the building.
Inside.
The only thing that came out was a little bit of the outside awning. But I'd say the hole is, let me just get a better look right now.
Okay, go ahead. We'll wait.
I'd say the hole takes about, looks like 6, 7 floors were taken out. And there's more explosions right now. Hold on, people are running.
Winston, hold on just a moment. We've got an explosion inside.
The building's exploding right now. You got people running up the street.
Okay.
Hold on, I'll tell you what's going on.
Okay, just put Winston on pause there for just a moment.
Okay, the whole